30-40 minutes, I will be discussing about gene expression, genetic manipulation, gene knockout versus gene knockdown, animal models in research, application of animal models, transgenic mouse model, and knockout mouse model. So I will discuss how these models can be generated and how these models can be used in studying the disease. Right. So first is the genome. Let's understand what is genome and why we say it's the instruction manual of our life. Right. So genome is present inside the cell in the nucleus in the form of chromosomes, and all the chromosomes they are made up of long chains of DNA, and these long chain of DNA they are consists of genes. Roughly in human there are 25-30,000 genes, right? And these gene when it expresses, it will code for a protein. And protein are the key biomacromolecules which actually perform all the function inside the cells. And because of these proteins function, their interaction with other proteins, the actual phenotypes will be observed, right? So we can say the genetic information determines how we are built, how we look, how we function. It is very important, right? So we can say genome is the genetic book of life. So like a book, so genome is also have all the instruction. Like chapters in a book, chromosomes are there in genome. Like sentences in chapter, DNA strands are there in chromosomes. And like words in sentences, genes are there in DNA strands. And like letters in words, we have base pairs A, T, G, C. So we can always compare genome as a genetic book of life. Right? So if you change some instruction in this book, your characteristics will change. Right? So I know most of you have prepared some recipe sometime by following the instruction in a recipe book. So we have a recipe book, cookery book, right, where all the instruction is given for different recipes. So if you follow all the instruction, then probably your dish is very delicious, right? You are able to make a delicious dish. But if there are some distractions, and because of these distractions, if you miss some information, probably you will be ended up with not a very delicious dish. Like, so this is the difference. If you miss some instruction, characteristics will change. And this happened in our genetic book of life also. Right? So we have a genetic book of life which contains all the instructions. Right? If all these instructions are followed properly, the phenotype is pretty normal. Right? But if there is some change in the instruction and they are not followed properly, the phenotype is not very good. Right? So this happens. Right? Now what happened in healthy and disease state, as I discussed yesterday also. So in all the cells, whether it's a cardiac cell, the liver cells, the lung cells, the neuron, the genome is pretty same, pretty much identical. Then why the function is different? This is because of differential expression of genes and mutations which acquire over the time, right? Due to several factors, environmental factors, inheritance also. And all these changes in mutations, they lead to loss of function and cause the disease. Right? So, when we want to study a disease, we always compare with the healthy state. Right? So as compared to healthy state, what happened in disease state? So what we do, when we determine the level of expression of different genes, we will find that there are certain genes whose expressions are very high in disease condition. There are certain number of genes whose expressions go low down, right? And there are genes we don't express at all in disease condition. So this is just because of differential expression of genes. Genes, their expression varies in disease condition and health conditions. Right? So as I discussed yesterday that you can profile the gene expression by microarray. In microarray, you will come to know that what happened to all your 20,000 or 25,000 genes, either they are expressed high or low, right? In a disease condition. What happened to these? Right. So once you have all this information, now you can always determine the function of uncharacterized genes. Suppose there are 100 genes which are overexpressing in cancer as compared to normal, right? So you can always go to UniProt. Now UniProt is the protein repository where information of all the proteins are compiled, right, we will come to know. So all the well-characterized gene information is there that this gene is coding for this protein and this is the function of this protein. You come to know from Unicode. But you will find that there are certain genes which are uncharacterized. No one knows about those genes. Those are still uncharacterized. And if the expression of those genes goes high, right? If the expression of those genes goes high, then probably you can how you characterize those genes. You can always silence those genes, right? And you can knock down those genes and then see what happened to the behavior of cells. When you shut down the gene expression, what happened to the cells, right? And compare these changes with the original healthy state. Similarly, if there are uncharacterized genes which are low expressing in disease condition, you can always upregulate them. You can always overexpress them in cell lines and then compare the changes with the original healthy state. So this is how the function of gene can be determined, right? So this is one of the way. Now let's understand the first gene silencing. When I say gene silencing, what does it mean? There are two terms: gene knockdown versus gene knockout. So you have to very clearly understand these phenomena. So I again request to Shubham and Aparna, please confirm if everything is fine. I am audible, my screen is visible. Aparna, you there?
Yeah. Yes, Ankur. Yeah. Just talking to Shubham.
Okay, my screen is visible and I am audible, right?
Yes, very much. Yes.
Okay. So let's understand the gene knockdown. When I say gene knockdown, it means there is a decreased expression. If a gene is expressing to full capacity, for example 100%, so if you decrease the expression by 20%, then it is gene knockdown. When I say gene knockout, it means you are completely eliminating the expression. If the gene is expressing 100%, now there is 0% expression, it means you have knocked out the gene. Right? So in gene knockdown, the expression goes down. It cannot eliminate completely. But in gene knockout, the expression is eliminated completely. Right? So this is about gene knockdown and gene knockout. Both can be achieved in cell line as well as in animal models. I will discuss this later on. Now in gene knockout, what happened? You have a normal DNA, normal genomic sequence. It will convert into RNA, and from RNA, protein is synthesized by translation, and you get the proteins. This is normally happens in central dogma. Information is converted from DNA to RNA to protein. DNA makes RNA makes protein, right? But if there is some mutation is there, frame-shift mutation is there, it could be acquired or due to several factors, due to exposure of some carcinogen, some chemicals, some radiation. If there is some mutation, this mutation will change the frame, and now your protein is not able to synthesize because of creation of stop codon in between. Because of this stop codon, your protein not synthesized completely, and when there is no protein corresponding to a particular gene, we consider it as a gene knockout. Because ultimately all the functions are executed by proteins. If your gene is not coding for a protein, it means the expression is lost. The gene is knocked out, right? And gene knockout can be easily performed inside the cell by zinc finger nucleases, by TALENs, these are engineered nucleases, and by CRISPR-Cas9. This is very much popular nowadays, right? CRISPR-Cas. Using CRISPR-Cas, you can make a gene knockout. Now coming to gene knockdown, what is meant by gene knockdown? So you have a DNA, you have a RNA, you have a protein. This is the normal. But somehow there are certain mechanisms by which you can degrade the RNA or you can block the translation. Then probably you will have less number of protein, right? And because there is less number of protein corresponding to a particular gene, the gene is knocked down. There is less expression. And this can be achieved by siRNA, short interfering RNA, miRNA, right? Short hairpin RNA. So siRNA, miRNA or RNA machinery is used to gene knock down. It can decrease the expression. It cannot completely eliminate the expression, right? So I request to Aparna, you can ask question number 1 at this stage.
Sure. So I will go to the poll and I'm going to start the poll. Kindly everybody register your answer. Which of the following editing technique is used for making gene knockout? siRNA, miRNA, shRNA, CRISPR.
डब्बा के नीले वाले
Everybody start
गरम की थी
voting.
ना
So another 30 seconds are there, and I think you
ये
can
हजूड़ा
answer
यार
quickly. I'll give you another 10 seconds.
Yes, Venkat.
Okay, probably another few more seconds. I encourage everybody to participate in the poll. It's a kind of a learning as well.
Please, Aparna, can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm going to end the poll now. So more than 50% people have answered, and they have chosen. I think it is like a major vote is for the CRISPR D. Next
that
comes
is the correct answer.
miRNA. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the right answer. And the CRISPR is used for making gene knockout, while siRNA, mRNA, and short heritage RNA, they are used for gene knockdown. Right? So let's come to the animal model. How we can use animal model in research. Right? So why there is need for animal models? Animal models are used in research because they can mimic aspect of a disease found in humans, right? And they are used to obtain information about a disease. For example, suppose there are many cancer associated genes and mutations which are well characterized. So what we can do is we can always express those genes, human genes, to animals and see how animals are behaving, how disease is progressing in animals, right? So in this way we can understand the function of different genes, their role in disease progression, right? And which cannot be achieved in cell culture, right? So we can understand the disease mechanism by using animal models. We can determine the function of genes in the disease by animal models. We can understand the effect of drug, how efficacious it is. The pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, this can be only possible in animal studies, right? We can develop various disease models by using animals. We can monitor the treatment of disease, the efficacy of the drugs, and the improvements, if there is any, by using these animal models. So animal models, they are indispensable part of our research, right? We cannot come to the conclusion before if we cannot use animals, right? So there is always a debate that we have to reduce the animal usage. Yes, it is correct, but we have to narrow down to the minimum animals. But animals usage is very, very important, right? Now coming to the transgenic animal model. What is transgenic animal model? As the name indicates, transgene. Transgene means the gene which is not of the animal. You are expressing a foreign gene in animal. That is transgene. So transgenic animal models, they carry a foreign gene which is deliberately inserted into its genome. Right? The foreign gene will express in animal, and it is corresponding. If the corresponding protein is produced, and the phenotype will be observed. So you are expressing a disease, human disease gene into animal. Now, once you are expressing that disease gene, what happened? The disease gene will code for a protein, and that protein will exert its effect in the animal, and you will see the phenotype, right? So in transgenic animal models, we are expressing a disease gene. It could be a human disease gene or something else. You are expressing into an animal, and then you see what happened to the animal when the protein is produced inside the body, right? So foreign gene can be constructed using recombinant DNA technology, right? So there are many transgenic animals models are being used for various diseases like mouse, rats, monkeys, zebrafish, and this C. elegans. C. elegans is not an animal; it's a worms. Then flies. These all are transgenics, right? They have very good model system for various diseases also. Now, most commonly used animal model is mouse. The question is why mouse is used as most commonly animal model for different diseases. There are reasons for it, right? The first is mouse is very biological similar to human. Genetics is very much similar. So they have very similar diseases. And mouse is very easy to manipulate genetically. If you look at the lifespan is very short, right? The gestation period of mouse is 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, you can get the pups, right? After 3 weeks, you can separate from their parents, and they become adult, and you can use them for your experiment. They reproduce very quickly, and apart from these, they are very cost effective. They are very small. You can handle them very easily, right? And they can be inbred to yield a genetically identical strains. These are the various features which makes mouse as a preferred model system in our research, right? So let's understand what is the first transgenic mouse model. The first transgenic mouse model was Super Mouse. It was created by two great scientists, Zinster and Paluter, in 1982. These are the two scientists from University of Pennsylvania and University of Washington. And what they did actually, you can see in the picture, one mouse is very larger in size other than the mouse. So what they did, they inserted a human growth hormone gene into a mouse genome, and the offspring was very bigger in size compared to parents. You can see. So phenotype is the growth of the body. The transgenic mouse is bigger than the parents because of the gene which they have inserted. They have inserted human growth hormone gene. So what this gene does, it produces human growth hormone inside the mouse, and because of that, the mouse is bigger than the parents. Right? This was the first transgenic mouse model. Now, what is the concept behind preparing or creating this transgenic animal model? The concept is very simple. You have to insert a foreign gene, or which can be your target gene. It could be a disease gene, right, into an animal. The inserted genes are called transgenes. These genes must be transmitted through the germline, right? So, what are the various steps involved in the production of transgenic mouse? Now you have to understand this, that you have to construct a transgene first. When I say construct a transgene, so you all know that without a promoter, without a terminator, no gene can be expressed. Because in order to express a gene must have undergone transcription and translation. And for transcription, you need promoter where RNA polymerase can bind and start the transcription. So when I say construction of transgene, it means you have to construct a transgene with promoter and terminator, then transfer this transgene into the mouse or animal. Then not all cells will get this transgene. You have to screen the positive mice, and then you have to breed them to get the maximum expression. Right? So this is the main process of production of transgenic animal or mouse. I will discuss all these steps one by one. So first is target gene. You have to identify what is your target gene, which you want to express in animal. It could be a cancer gene, it could be a mutation gene, it could be a proto-oncogene, whatever you want. whatever disease you are working on, you have to select your gene first. And then your transgene cassette will consist promoter, gene to be expressed, and termination sequence. So your cassette will look like this. All the cassette will contain one promoter, then the gene of interest, and then the termination sequence. This promoter and termination sequence will facilitate the transcription. Once transcription is there, when RNA is produced, translation will happen and protein will be produced inside the body. Right? Sometimes this transgene cassette will also contain some antibiotic gene also, which is known as marker. Because once you inject this transgene into animal cells, so you have to screen which cells actually getting the transgene, and then this marker or antibiotic marker will help you to screen those cells which actually receive this transgene. Right? So let's understand method of transgene transfer. How these transgenes are transferred. So first method is DNA microinjection. I will explain this. Second is embryonic stem cell mediated gene transfer. I will also go to this. And then finally is retroviral mediated gene transfer. So I am going to explain all these methods one by one. They are very interesting, right? So let's understand first the life cycle of a mouse. So after fertilization, there is a stage where both the female nucleus and male nucleus, they are present in a single cell, but they have not fused yet. This is fertilized egg, but in a single cell stage. At this stage, both nucleus are there, but they have not fused yet.
अरे का है मिट्टू
Now,
भाई
after
का
that,
ठीक है
after the
क्या
fusion,
बताई
embryo
धंधा में मंदी चल रही लॉकडाउन लगा
there is a 8 cell
तो वहाँ होगा कोरोना
and
फैला
then there is
आया
a
जो बिना मास्क लगाए बगता है
and
कोरोना जो
finally
मस्का पाई तो सीधे ऊपर दिखाइया अरे काहे का कोरोना कहूँ नहीं आया कोरोना कोरोना
the whole
बढ़िया जहाँ 60 वाला छानी थे ना
roughly around 20
60 वाले के बाद कोरोना सब खत्म हो
and that's
जाए
why we choose
अरे खत्म तो हो जाता है तुम ना खत्म हो जाए चुक ना जाए वही यहाँ सबसे बड़ी चिंता बनी रही थी कि तुम जो
Now, in micro injection, we take eggs when they are at single cell stage, when both the pronucleus, male nucleus and female nucleus, they have not been joined yet. Right? So eggs are collected from super ovulated female mouse. Then eggs are fertilized in vitro. Then the transfer the desired.
हाँ हाँ राजियां दी तरह तन्ने आऊंगा बिहारे और तन्ने में बना लूंगा रानी अपनी
Microinjection. And then finally develop embryonic phase. Right? And finally transfer to the recipient. So first you have to collect the eggs, then you have to fertilize them in vitro. Then at single cell stage you have to transfer into any of the male nucleus or female nucleus. Then these eggs will be cultivated in vitro to the blastocyst stage, and then finally they will transferred into the recipient female mice. Right? So let's understand. So this is the fertilization. This is the single cell stage. Both the pronucleus are there. Male pronucleus and female pronucleus. Then you can inject your transgene in male pronucleus. In mouse, the male pronucleus is larger than female pronucleus. So it is very easy to transfer your transgene male pronucleus. And once it is there, male pronucleus, then grow them in vitro, and then finally plant it to grow pregnant mice. And then pups are there, and you can screen the pups to the transgenic mouse, because not all pups are transgenic. You have to screen which is transgenic and which is normal. And once you have a transgenic mouse, you have to breed them to get more transgenic mouse. So this is how transgenic animals are injected, produced through microinjection method. So let's have the microinjection process. Let's discuss in detail. So in this microinjection, there is a holding pipette. This holding pipette is actually creating a vacuum. And because of this vacuum, it can hold this egg, right? And then there are male pronucleus and female pronucleus, you can see.